Hi, this is a special edition of the Brass Bench live stream show, post-ITG wrap-up, here with Terry Warburton.
Hi.
Dave Weiner, emceeing, I guess, from behind the scenes remotely from his estate in Timonium, Maryland.
This palatial estate.
Yeah, yes, palatial estate. So, and of course the phone rings.
That's why it's live.
That's fine.
Things happen.
The machine is turned off, though, so we don't have to hear my voice any more than now.
Oh, good.
But for everybody who does not know, Terry Warburton is owner and proprietor of Warburton Music Products since 1974, mouthpieces, practice aids, and now trumpets. So, Terry, how did you get started in the business?
Took a left instead of a right. Oh, come on, you can laugh in the background. Audience participation. Thank you, Matt. I was a young trumpet player, like a lot of people, and decided to work in a music store along McQuaid in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, when I was about 17, and decided that I liked that more than I like playing the trumpet. And next thing you know, I was working away successfully, and then one day, when I, at the tender age of 24, decided that I should be a mouthpiece maker, and went to machine shops and said, how do you make one of these things? And I showed me a lathe, and I went, gotta buy me one of those. And that's how I got started.
And fast forward 43
years, thank you very much. I'll let you people do the math, figure out how old I am. And here we are today. We were the, I believe, first U.S. company to manufacture mouthpieces on computerized equipment in 1986. And that makes me the living fossil of computerized equipment. There you go, Chris.
So you worked at Giardinelli's in New York for a while.
Yes, the backstory to that is when I first started to manufacture mouthpieces, I knew Bob Giardinelli, so I asked him if I could go to New York and he would show me how they do it. So he said, sure, come on down. So I went down there one weekend and I said, Bob, you sure you don't mind showing me how you guys make mouthpieces? And he said, no. He said, not at all. He said, your chances of being a successful mouthpiece maker are 0 to none. I said, well, that's fair enough. And 5 years later, Giardinelli hired me to run his whole shop, mouthpieces, and retail store, and I was scheduled to end up owning it and spending my rest of my life in purgatory, New York City. And I politely declined and decided that Florida was the appropriate place to live out my life, which I've done for the last 37 years. Next on question.
So why Florida?
Why Florida? Let me see, you grow up in Toronto and you say to yourself, why not Florida is the correct question. Because I love the beach and I love riding my Honda Goldwing in beautiful weather, and I love sunshine and warm weather, that's why.
So, other than that, did you consider Giardinelli's offer?
Other than that? What do you mean, there's something other than that?
Well, Giardinelli, he was a mogul of the industry at the time. It seems like a pretty attractive offer, regardless of the...
It was, and I loved the business. I just didn't love the city. And I also got an offer from Reno Schilke to move to Chicago. And I said, Reno, I can spend the next 30 years making you more famous, or the next 30 years making me famous. And Fort Lauderdale versus Chicago, that's a tough choice right there.
All the cold climate offers.
I know, so I had to decline Mr. Schilke, even though I love him. He was a great guy. And
What did he want
I
to
kind
do?
of wish I went there for a few years, then I would have just owned the Schilke company and moved it down to Florida, so that would have worked out anyways.
What did he want you to do there? Just head up
To
mouthpiece?
run up their mouthpiece company. I'm sure once I was there, I would have been involved in other machining of aspects of what manufacturing trumpets, sort of like what I do now.
That would have been interesting.
Yes.
So you've had other runs at making trumpets in the past, with the fire, I guess, intervening with that. What first got you into wanting to make trumpets other than just the natural progression of...
It's the natural progression of you find yourself interested and you start looking at things, and in the early 80s, in Fort Lauderdale, I actually made some modular trumpets, interchangeable lead pipes and bells. And there's about 51 of those running around the planet somewhere. Actually, there's not 51 because I had one of them and it burned up in the factory fire, so.
We were playing that one in Texas at ITG. That was
Probably.
so. When you restarted that, you were working with Roy Lawler at that point with that like a joint venture.
No, that was long before Roy Lawler, because Roy was in Orlando, and I didn't move to Orlando until 1986. Roy and I were just good friends. I made a lot of parts pieces for his trumpet, or trumpets, and no, actually then I was not involved in trumpet making at that point.
And that was the only trumpet you'd made at that point, the one that burned up in the fire.
Yeah, and then I got involved again in the Blessing Company. When they were still in Elkhart, Indiana, built some horns for me with lead pipes that we draw ourselves and a lot of parts and pieces that I manufacture myself. And then, of course, they closed the doors, and I moved on from there.
And you're getting ready to move again in November.
Yes, and apparently the 8,000 square foot building we're in is not quite big enough to hold all my toys. So in November we're moving to a 12,000 square foot facility in the same small town of Mims, Florida, followed by the usual, where the hell is Mims? It's straight east of Orlando, almost to the ocean, so it's a great spot. We love it there. We're going to stay there. And now that we're buying a building there, I'm sure I'm going to stay there. So there.
See if you have any questions here yet, other than Greg Black saying hi.
Is that my natural hair color? Yes. Just kidding, that wasn't a question.
And someone looking forward to meeting you, Ryan Reske, in New York
Reski's
tomorrow.
that dude. Reski is the man.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Definitely a dude you want to know.
and I'm pretty sure everybody can hear us, but if anybody wants to chime in and say they can't, or what have you, then feel free. And I could add in as far as my involvement and how I met you. My trumpet teacher in college back in '98 was a big aficionado and had
My kind of guy.
what seemed to be an equivalent of an entire master kit and a variety of plano tackle boxes in his office. That was Alan Hammett, and being a very, very sheltered trumpet player, only learning privately in Dover, Delaware, and then California for a little while. There was a new thing to know anything custom existed. It was just, here's what goes in the case, and here's what, this is what you play. There's not really a whole lot of options with the music store in my town, which kind of planted the seed for me to build a business myself. Was just that there wasn't enough expertise, there wasn't enough options available beyond the very, very basics. So I got on that mouthpiece, and the wheels started turning. And then when I opened my shop, and people started asking me if I carried things that I did not, my first thoughts was, well, I should probably carry some mouthpieces.
Great idea.
So Terry was kind enough to offer me a decent discount right off the top without even carrying anything. And for anybody getting started who's ever tried to start their own business or have a retail thing, to be a stocking dealer is very expensive, even with the most basic thing. You're granted you want to be able to carry the selection and you want to be able to have the options for people, but it's expensive. So, at the time, I think my initial buy-in was $2,400 for 12 tops and 12 bottoms, and some, I think.
I can't remember that far back.
Yeah, so, but, nowadays, to be stocking dealer for some instrument makers, sometimes it's $50,000. And then every year you have to up that. So for him to be able to offer me a buy-in or the ability to sell the product without any, really financial investment up front was a big help for me, because that's obviously bringing people in my door, even though that door was the chain link gate in the basement of the music building at University of Delaware at the time.
Good spot for you.
Yeah, it worked out well, but, I didn't know what direction things were going to go, and they went. And, of course, we did some joint ventures with the horn grip. Actually,
Great idea,
can you
actually.
hand me my horn on that stand there, Jerry? Hasn't sold quite as many as I've hoped, but being a hand posture guy, this was something that me and a friend John Wheeler in college came up with, being from drum corps roots of having people whack in the knuckles with drumsticks to keep your hand off the lead pipe. We thought it would be a good idea to have that training aid outside of drum corps, and even some people like Wayne Bergeron that play it even like using it regular in work, because when you do page turns and things like that, it's easier to keep the horn in a proper ergonomic position than cranking around to the pinky ring like this when you're putting mutes in or doing anything else like that in the pit especially. So we went in on that, and I don't know how many you think we've sold of these to date.
No.
Not as many as the Pete.
No, not as many as the Pete.
Is that what, the 50,000
it's still
now?
hundreds. Yeah, the Pete is closing in on 50,000, but this is a slightly smaller number.
Yeah, the thing that one of the challenges with the grip is that there's a lot of pieces to it. The grip is one piece, so I think you can cut that in one pass, right?
The Pete is one piece.
Right.
If you do that in one pass, this thing has so many parts and pieces that I had to scratch my head to even figure out how to make the thing.
Yeah, so, but these are, examples of things where if you, I don't know, get into making anything or make a business out of it, that you kind of have to figure out. Before bringing this to Terry, even though we were friends and I was already a dealer for him, I brought this to injection molding companies and things like that, because those are obviously cheap to make once you make the mold. But for a variety of reasons that I had no idea about, you can't injection mold it as easy as that, because it's too thick, so when it cools it would collapse in on itself. So they were like, well, you have to make it 2 pieces, and then you'd have to plasma weld it together, and that's another step, so that adds to the price. And it just got really expensive real quick, not to mention that for an injection mold in an American shop, it's about $20,000 to $30,000 for one mold to be machined, or however they
that
make
wouldn't even be for all the parts and pieces.
Right. Yeah, and some of these aren't. Some of these are bought as parts, and most of them are made. The legs, I think the nuts are even making now. In the beginning,
I've made all of them.
yeah, in the beginning when me and my friend Mike Moore were making the prototypes, we were getting a lot of fittings from McMaster Car and things like that, and then dyeing the nylon, because you could only get it in certain colors. So then we had to learn how to dye nylon that I didn't even think you could do in the beginning. So, but at any rate, so
yeah, that's a great product. People should try it if they haven't. They can go check out Chris's website or the Warburton-USA.com website, and they'll find it there.
You have a few questions up there. Interesting. From the Netherlands and
Questions. I love questions. What kind of beer is Terry drinking? That would be Coors Light.
So Marcel Schott, am I saying that right? Greetings from the Netherlands. I'm owner of a small brass shop founded in 1928.
He's older than I am.
Music business changed a lot in the 10 years. What is your opinion of the most positive and worst changes in the last 10 years, I guess, in the business?
Depends on whose perspective that would be coming from. As an American manufacturer, the worst thing to happen is the rise of so many Chinese companies that have gutted the American musical instrument business, other than one or two big companies, and fortunately a whole lot of small companies like mine. What was the other one? That's just it. Don't worry about him.
There's a guard dog.
There's guard dog right there. Yeah. And one of the most positive things is that with the advent of a whole lot of computerized equipment, the smaller guys are indeed able to compete in the world market by making some really good quality products that are respected around the world. Because for whatever reason, us Yankees know how to make stuff. Even us Canadians. Thanks.
Well, that makes me think of something with some changes that are going on in the industry with Guitar Center and the conglomerate of music and arts and things like that. That they're, kind of wavering, with the things that are happening in the business, and the fact that they're, the Con Selmer is one of their largest suppliers. That if music and arts were to go out of business, or the Guitar Center to music and arts, that could cause Con Selmer to also, do you see that as likely, or do you think that that's overreacting to that type of thing?
I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's impossible either, and it's something that concerns any manufacturer, is to be too dependent on any one source. That's part of the reason that at Warburton, at this point, 60% of what we manufacture is shipped all around the world, so that not just any one customer, but any one country suffering doesn't take down the business. And yeah, I'm sure there's sleepless nights in several of the larger corporations. I sleep real well.
That's one of those things that where maybe someone that was, coming up, maybe the product blew up real quick, and someone like, Woodwind and Brassman might say, hey, we want to buy 80% of your take. Then you say, yeah, that's great, of course. The one customer, the easiest thing in the world to deal with, and then they don't think about the fact that if Woodwind and Brassman goes out of business or something happens, then where does that leave them? That takes their entire company down with them.
Well, that's exactly what happened. I believe I read that Walmart did that, where they would end up buying all the production of a certain company, and of course then they would tell you what you could charge them
Right.
for your product, and the next thing you know, they're telling you that they've decided to get your product made in China, and thanks and have a nice day as you close up your store. So I don't ever intend to get caught in that particular trap either.
Right, and the other part of that is that when they start dictating the price and production of your product, you price out smaller dealers to where you say, well, you need to order a minimum of X, and some of the smaller dealers that may have helped that person get on the map now can't afford to stock even the diner on the corner here buying tasty cakes back in the late 60s. They were begging him to take the product, and then they get bought out several times over, and now, unless he's, prepared to buy 1,000 cases, or, who knows, then they're not willing to even deliver to him.
Yeah, and that happened too. A lot of small dealers, mom and pop shops that were like the size of your shop, that you wanted to buy a couple of flutes or something, and suddenly you find out that you can't get the same price unless you buy 1,000 flutes a year. Subsequently, you buy no flutes a year.
Right.
So I think a lot of the big big companies in the industry did themselves a disservice by getting so involved with very large companies that, sure, they bought a whole lot of stuff, but it was not the smartest maneuver for a lot of people. Just my opinion. What do I know?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, things like this happen, and some people that are, their ties are longer than the coils in their brain, that might say, oh, well, it makes sense to do this because, we're going to make it for this, and we're going to sell it for this, and so forth and so on. You don't know what you're talking about. It's just sour grapes. But, I mean, realistically, what do you think? We know what the harm is to the smaller dealer. Obviously, we can't carry the product, but the harm to the larger dealer, and not even the long run, but the not so long run. It's a harm to them too, I think.
Well, what's happened is that some of the dealers that have the wherewithal are simply going direct to the Chinese manufacturers, getting stuff made with their name on it, and bypassing the normal chain of production of U.S. manufacturers, which ends up being a double-edged sword, because now the largest American manufacturers, all the student instruments are made in China anyways, which is a sad thing. I don't know if people know this fact, but the U.S. accounts for 50% of the world's saxophone sales. Does anybody want to guess how many saxophones were made in America last year? Zip. Not even one.
Not even the Selmer Super Action, the top of the line Selmer saxes anymore.
They come from Paris, France. They're not made here.
So I just
There's
figured that was
zero saxophones. Zero saxophones.
Let's see if I get this to refresh.
We're busy supporting the rest of the world in their manufacturing.
Yeah, and the way I see it, I feel like, then you have the potential of quality issues. It's harder to address things because people are so far away.
Yeah.
And just that, even when there's been some people that I've known in, way back in the day when I first started, they were trying to make some instruments. Of course, their desire was to get them in the biggest stores. And my feeling was that, okay, well, you're going to get them in the biggest stores, but they're also carrying Yamaha and Schilke and Bach. They're not going to talk about your instrument.
That's
The
right.
smaller shops are going to take the time to walk people through the features if they really believe in the product, and that's really, in the long run, going to carry your product further down the road than some initial sales like, oh, we bought 12 trumpets up front. That's awesome. That kind of thing. So.
Well, these days the whole industry's been changed also by the advent of the internet, and some of us, me, is old enough to remember when there was no such thing as the internet, and we come to a shock to every kid under the age of 20. All we had was a telephone and something called mail, regular mail.
I feel like we're going back that way a little bit, though, because, I complain about a lot of things, everybody knows that, but just the fact that now you can't buy anything anymore in person. You go to Home Depot or Lowe's, or you go to Best Buy to buy something, and every other, the floor I have an order that's come in. We don't sell that in the store. It's internet only. It's frustrating. I'm willing to pay more for it to have it today, just because I want to be able to touch it. I want to be able to go in and certain things I don't want to buy online.
Well, certainly musical instruments are one of those things. People want to
Try them out.
try them, play them. You don't just like order one online and hope for the best. Or you depend on the quality of the company you're buying from. We've had some people around the world ordering Warburton trumpets and cornets and flugelhorns and just hitting the button and, yeah, I'll take one of those. Well, they have a return policy, but they haven't returned them, so they must have liked them. So,
Well, I guess the cost benefit as far as their time to rectify anything too, they're willing to throw it away. I mean, with me, instruments that come from a variety of I guess non-traditional sources. The big thing for me is, sure, they're not made as well, but if that's what you want to buy, that's fine. I'll fix anything, but the parts aren't available.
right.
So I've had schools that come in here, they buy double horns because a brand new double horn, even an okay one, is $5,000-$6,000, and if you can buy another one for $2,000, then that's great. But I can't get any of the parts, so I have to customize something if I can even do that. So you're talking $100 an hour to make something. I've done something for a school around here that it was, I think, a $200 part that I ended up
Right,
little linkage piece, but the threads were different. It was made out of pop metal for starters,
No.
but that's still better for them than buying another instrument like that. But it stinks because it shouldn't cost that much to fix that particular part. And I've had to tell people that they can't fix their trumpet because of a plastic valve guide that broke. Because I can fix the plastic valve guide by taking it to my friend with a 3D printer, but I have to pay him for his time. So we're looking at $150 for a 25-cent part.
25-cent part.
Right. When they paid $150 on Amazon with Prime free shipping, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, what they're saving on the front end, they'll probably lose on the back end, and then they're buying a product that has no name brand recognition, which means as a trade-in, it's worth nothing. That's what a lot of people don't realize when they're buying something like that, is that if they want to step up, they realize that they now possess an instrument that, with a name nobody's ever heard of, with no reputation, no backup.
Right. Which in the short of it, if the parent would just buy a used instrument that's not as shiny, they could probably buy it for the same.
And be a whole lot better off.
And resell it probably still too if the kid loses interest.
And get it fixed.
Marcel wants to point out that he's 47. Just for his rep. So he's not the original owner of
It's the third owner.
Garrett says hello.
Oh,
Steve Justice.
That's who it was.
And there was a question here
Okay,
from
your
Matt.
store is older than me, not you.
I can't find it now.
You're a lot younger than I am, Marcel.
Can I get back to that question? I think it was a question basically of, what is different between the Warburton mouthpieces and the Garden Variety Bach 3Cs. Obviously you start one place, but what is the biggest thing you see different from those mouthpieces other than obvious quality differences?
There's not obvious quality. A lot of times there is just a lot more choice in the way we manufacture our mouthpieces, which these days there's a lot of manufacturers manufacturing it the same way I do, with interchangeable backbores and tops. As far as the Garden Variety 3C, if that particular mouthpiece fits your chops and gets the sound that you want, as we say in the factory, if it sounds good and it feels good, it is good, even if our name isn't on it. It's that simple. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that does not fit everybody. If it fits you, awesome.
Yeah, that's a lot of people ask me about valve oil. That's not even remotely the same investment. But people, what's the best valve oil? I'm like, well, it's all variations on a theme. It's all either synthetic or petroleum based. Mm-hmm. It's what works best with your chemistry. There's very few oils that I flat out will say don't get. But even those, like with, I tell people blue juice I'm not a big fan of because it tends to have buildup issues and things like that are tough to get out when you clean the instrument.
I've seen that just recently where they had so much gunk in there, and when we found out what kind of oil they used, it was like, well, it might have felt good the first day, but now that you've got like a white film covering the inside of your casings.
But even then, if that really is what they like and it really works well for them, I say, go ahead and use it. I'm not going to carry it, but it's whatever works for you. I'm trying to develop, my spare time now with the baby coming, of course. But one of my pet projects is I'm trying to figure out the chemistry to dial in, like some type of correlation between people's pH or their personal chemistry, and what oils might work better for you based on that.
Sounds like your master's thesis coming right up here.
But I just figured there's a lot, as I've started to do, it's a stupid thing in one respect, because I got into this because I like building things. I wanted to build instruments. I thought it was really neat, the mechanics. And then I learned repair just to learn the skills to do that, but then I got into the repair part. Then I got the ultrasonic machine because it's,
Because you like to wash your hands till it's
yeah,
clean.
it's a revenue stream. It's needed, obviously, and I didn't want to invest into the chemicals. And the machine was that technology was coming around that time when I was really starting to come out, and I just decided to invest in that. But the thing is, as I do thousands of horns, you see certain types of damage, and there's a pattern to that. And so it's a shame when someone brings in a very nice vintage instrument. Or the guy that brought in a gold Blackburn one time, it was awesome instrument. He was bringing it in to get the lead pipe replaced because he just decided he wanted a different blow to it and whatever, had already gotten piped from Cliff, and I was just installing it. And as looking over the horn, and he's talking about how much he babies it and he washes it once a month, which I believe. And then as I turn the instrument over like this and I look under the lead pipe, it looked like someone machine gunned it. He had so much red rot, it was ridiculous. And he had no idea, because you don't look at the horn up under the brace. And the reality was that's why it stopped playing the way he wanted it, and why he wanted to change the lead pipe is because the inside of the pipe was so textured and pitted, it didn't respond the same way. But the thing is that, why is it not good enough just to clean it yourself? What is the difference? What's happening here chemically? So I've been doing a lot of research, trying to figure that stuff out. What goes on specifically, and I'm finding out a lot of things about dissimilar metals and catalysts and just all sorts of crazy stuff. So I'm trying to whittle that down into. I don't want to get into an oil business. It's really the last thing in the world I want to do. But maybe
we make oil.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And maybe I go, hey, here's some ideas.
We've got our special formula. Ours works.
Take it, go for it. So, but I feel like it's just one of those things that a lot of people haven't looked at yet, and maybe there's a little more work we could do there. I kind of look at oils as metal conditioners more than lubricants, because I feel like its main function is to shield the metal from itself, other than lubricating, since really technically spit water is lubricant on some level. So, but
just spray WD-40.
Yeah. Well, I used to have Hammett actually used to dip his valves in lamp oil. He had a bottle of lamp oil next to his chair, and he would dunk them in like a dunk tank.
That works.
Yeah, and it would blow me away that he did. I was like, man, it's a really good thing he doesn't smoke.
Yeah, good
because we could have a little problem here on our hands.
Well, one of the things when you're talking about the pistons is that we came out with a product called Clean Stroke, because what we found, get things off, is that most of the gunk doesn't collect on the piston. You can wipe your piston down. That's not where the dirt is. It actually clings to the brass cylindrical casing, and that's where the dirt collects. So we put some Clean Stroke on, you play for 20 minutes, and it actually cleans the casing.
Kind of gets like a release agent almost?
Yeah, it's like a soap-based thing where it just literally cleans the casing, cleans all that junk out that most people don't take the time to take out.
Kind of like a quick thing to do in between cleans, maybe.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we've got a lot of great results with that. People aren't aware of that sort of idea that, you clean the piston, but you don't clean the casing, which doesn't.
But it's interesting that you're pointing out that it attaches more readily to the yellow brass. It kind of goes with another thing I think about is with Connie D's in particular being nickel silver, the lacquer tends to release a lot quicker naturally in both in the cleaning process. I'd say, I don't know, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 3 Connie D's that I ultrasonically clean or even chem cleans that I've heard about from other technicians, the lacquer comes off in large number. And I think, based on what I'm looking at, is that
doesn't bond as well to
it's a harder metal, so it doesn't have as much porous surface for that finish to grab it. So maybe with the yellow brass casing, it is grabbing it better than the hardened Monel or the nickel-plated surface.
Sure.
But yeah, that's another thing of those differences of metals, or even when people get worn valves and they get a valve job, what's that involving is nickel plating the piston and then rehoning it, enlarging the piston and rehoning the casing, when really what's happened is the yellow brass is what's worn out, not the
Normally.
Monel. But you can't, you can't electroplate your casing with yellow brass.
No, I wouldn't do that.
I've heard of somebody, I want to say, I can't remember if it's Mark Atkinson or not, but there's somebody that has a thing that they've tried soldering a sleeve now into rotors to resurface, to do a valve job on a double horn.
Be a hell of a skinny sleeve.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of this, remembering this off the top of my head, so I don't know if it was him or not, but someone has tried that or is doing that.
Or he wanted to trick you into trying it.
Yeah, I know.
That's what it was.
But that,
I know Mark. That's what it was.
So that's got to be a pretty, like you said, paper thin. I don't know how you're soldering that.
I have no idea.
Because the valves wear out, it's only by,
A few
a couple
10,000s.
thousand. Yeah.
If it's a few thousands, there's so much air going by that you sound foo-foo without trying.
Yeah. Also, another thing we like to talk about on the brass bench, we think is interesting, is that we can all get tunnel vision with talking about instruments all the live long day. And I'm sure some days you're thinking, I'd rather, go take a bath with a toaster than talk about trumpet one more time, especially after a conference.
That's not true. That may be his case, but I've never thought about bathing with a toaster myself.
Toasters get dirty. This is really what I was going at. My toaster gets dirty. It's a lot
We'll
of
send you
use.
some clean stroke for your toasters.
But you have an interesting hobby that you do. I know you're a connoisseur of fine beverages.
Which one?
That we can see here. That you make a lot of wine.
That's true. That's my getaway from the trumpet. I actually have several getaways from the trumpet. One of them is I do enjoy making wine. My wife enjoys drinking wine. Sorry, honey, I had to say that.
Who doesn't like
I drink it. Are you kidding me? And that's one of my hobbies, which is fun. The other hobby is I'm currently manufacturing a mold to manufacture a 12-foot fiberglass speedboat, so the whole world can go Warburton.
Oh, you got it worked out already.
The laugh from the peanut gallery there. And when that's not happening, then I ride my Goldwing Valkyrie. That was my 65th birthday present to myself. And I've been managing to ride that once or twice a week, just for 100 miles at a time, and then I go back and I work some more. But the reality is, I love the trumpet business, I love the brass instrument business, and I'm still young, full of health, and I'll probably be doing this maybe as long as Jerry Cowett. That's a long time.
You just turned 90 this past week.
Still so young. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to be doing this for a long time, folks.
Yeah, I think we all in the industry, I think, with the exception of people I don't know, I assume some people don't like it, but I think everybody loves what they do in the business. I don't know, me personally, I feel lucky to be in the trumpet or the brass business because I feel like there's a lot of camaraderie. Like, you learned from, obviously, Bob Giardinelli, and there's been a lot of people that have learned from you.
That was one day. How much did you think I learned?
But the thing is, I just find it interesting because, trade secrets, I can't even get the basic information sometimes just because I'm curious about something. But, so many, manufacturers and craftsmen are so willing to open up their doors. Like, Cliff Blackburn, teaching, things to Peter Pickett, and I think you taught Pete some things as well.
No, but I did teach Carl Hammond. Apprenticed with me right out of college, and then I convinced Schilke to hire him, and he did very well there, and now he's on his own doing well, so I'm very proud of Carl Hammond.
Yeah,
He's a young kid, 50-something.
Yeah. But I think that's neat that if there's a lot of, you got to come with your hat in your hand kind of thing. Don't come thinking you're going to make $1 million tomorrow.
No, I wouldn't think so.
But, a lot of people are really willing to talk to you about things because they're excited about it. Like, I'll talk to people about repair or a little bit about fabrication that I know because I enjoy talking about it. And I think, it's a small enough business where everybody knows everybody eventually.
Yep.
And, it's hard enough to do to where people aren't going to be lining up down the street to open up a shop.
No, and I don't even worry about it. I had the Antonio Rapicciuolo from Italy come even stay with me at the house for 3 days while I showed him everything we do, how to make mouthpieces, and he's busy doing that back in Italy and doing a great job of it. And for me, it's just paying it forward a little bit for all the people that have helped me in my long, illustrious career.
Illustrious.
Or dusty career. That's one of those.
One thing Dave's reminding us is that do you want to specify any of the models that you're making and what the difference is, for the trumpets?
Dave, are you kidding? we don't have that much time to go through how many different models we're making. We do make something that is pretty unique in the industry and also very popular, is that we are using a solid titanium bell on different bore sizes, different lead pipe sizes. I mean, we make so many different model. I don't even know how many it is. Kim, is it 1,000 different
How many different models?
options?
I don't know that we ever actually sat down and quantified it, but it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, you need a calculator that has like a really big screen on it. So, does that answer your question, Dave? No, it does not, but that's okay, because that's how you can do it.
Okay, we can talk about one thing then that I know is very specific. What about that receiver that you're making?
That was a stroke of genius, one of many I've had. Thank you very much.
Your hand was busy, so
I know, appreciate that. Yeah, aside from actually inventing a new neck for the saxophone that I have a U.S. patent on, which has become very popular, I also looked at the trumpet and actually created a new receiver where the mouthpiece goes in, and we actually machine a cylindrical section in the receiver, and then each receiver is machined from the back side so that when the lead pipe actually goes in, instead of having to guess where that goes to place correctly, it actually hits a ledge. So every one of them is machine perfect. Sort of like me.
What's the playing benefit of that?
Oh, I don't know.
Whatever
No,
you get
actually what it does, we call it the slot receiver, and what it does, we found out, was that it enables, as you go up into the upper register and the harmonics get a little bit closer, the slot receiver actually makes it feel like you're stepping upstairs. So every partial is right where it's supposed to be. Right, Kim?
It's about 350 different models, give or take.
All right, so
So back to the bells.
we can make 350 different models of trumpets,
Raw brass.
depending on
That's only
what
raw
finish,
brass.
times
That's only-
4. So, yeah, okay, no, we don't have them all in stock.
I think ideally someone wants to come to the factory, try some things, and you're building everything for them one at a time. And the models are established by a combination of the bell, bore, and
Lead pipe.
Lead pipe and bell and bore size, yeah. So there's 3 different options available. But yeah, we can build something right there after talking to them if we haven't already built it. It may be something that's a common denominator, or somebody wants a symphonic trumpet. We have one we call the 335, and we can almost hand it to them and say, here, play this, and they'll be happy.
So I guess that's what you're finding, as you put things together, you're finding out combinations that work really well for certain types of things.
Well, yeah, but it's interesting that when we first started, we did trials, and we asked people, okay, if you had your choice, which one of these would you want, thinking that it would narrow itself down to maybe 2 or 3 models, and of course it narrowed itself down to about 25. So it didn't
Because
narrow,
that's the
didn't
ones we
narrow
had.
itself at all.
Because those are the ones we had.
Yeah, right, if we'd had all 1,200 different models, we'd probably have 1,200 different answers on that.
Well, it kind of goes with the mouthpieces too, even though there's endless choices.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people end up dialing in around 4, 5, or 6. The rim size.
3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, that's it.
But you need those other ones a lot of times to kind of
But we
test.
sell an amazing number of number 10s in Japan, for example.
Yeah.
Not so many here, but over there they love that small diameter mouthpiece, so we make it.
Yeah. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. If anybody wants to go back and pore over the details of this, we do archive these on YouTube on the Brass Bench channel. We've been slacking a little bit with the volume of the live stream shows we've been doing, but we're going to try to increase that and get some more guests and do some more bench things if I can get over, the nerves of actually doing open heart surgery while I'm being videotaped. That just messes with me.
Yeah, he does get nervous, I know.
So, but be sure to like our the Brass Bench on Facebook, thebrassbench.com. There's the website, Warburton-USA.com. For Terry here, and my personal shop website, minortuneup.com. Repairs, custom options, you name it, whatever you want. So, thanks very much for hanging, and
You're welcome. Thank you, Chris.
everybody, thanks for tuning in, and I think that's going to do it.
And next time he's going to tilt that Apple phone sideways to shoot the video like he's supposed to, so it doesn't look like that screen.
I know, but
He knows, but he didn't build something to hold it sideways. He built something to hold it.
Yeah, I don't do technology. It just.
The guy builds trumpets. We're going to cut him some slack on the iPhone holder.
Yeah. well, I'll tackle that one day. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thanks for anybody that's watching, both of you. Thank you.